Amanda.
Hey, Tommy.
Hey, welcome back for season 2.
Season 2. I've missed doing this.
Have you heard the king is dead?
No. Oh, I can't believe we're actually doing this.
We are back for season 2, and we are talking about series finales. And the first one is probably the best one.
Probably the most anticipated.
The most anticipated.
And that's Succession.
It is. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
On Can We Talk About?
Nice buns, soft, fluffy, and ultra-low net carbs. Discover Hero Bread, the delicious, ultra-low net carb bread with incredible taste and texture. Hero Bread has 0 grams of sugar and is under 100 calories per serving. Plus, high in fiber with 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Order from hero.co now and get 10% off your first purchase with promo code AH10. That's 10% off with code AH10. HERO.co.
Fucking vote for me. Just please, vote for me. Shiv, vote for me.
No.
Yes.
No.
Shiv, don't do this.
No.
You can't do this,
No.
Shiv.
No.
Absolutely
Yes.
not, man.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Why?
No. Why?
What, just...
I love you. I love you, but I cannot fucking stomach you.
This is fucking disgusting. It's disgusting.
It's disgusting.
You're disgusting. You're fucking heartless.
What?
It's fucking nuts. It doesn't even make any sense. I'm the youngest boy.
Can we talk about Succession?
Finally.
Yeah.
The big fish. The big kahuna.
It's the first show to kick off our month of series finales because there's a bunch of series finales.
So many.
And they're all happening at once. And then it's funny enough, I found out why. I was curious. I was like, why? When we were planning out our episodes for this podcast, to get meta for a second before we actually talk about the show, we were like, oh, well, this ends this date and this date. And then that ends this date. And it turned out like everything. Almost everything.
Single thing we wanted to talk about. Same day or
Yes.
at least week.
Yeah. And you know why? It's because in order for it to qualify for the Emmys, it has to end before June 1st, which explains why they all ended in like the last couple days of May. And they shoehorned them in.
Fuckers. Well, I guess it makes sense, but still.
Yeah.
Stressful for us.
Yeah. And we sort of looked at the map of all the different shows series finaleing. And because there were some other shows that also just like season finale.
Yeah. End of seasons, of course.
Yeah. Our sister podcast at Gotham West Studios, In Sync, just did an episode about Yellow Jackets, which I've never watched. Have you ever watched that show?
I watched a couple episodes and I was like, okay, this is good.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something you have to be in the right headspace while you're watching it.
Yeah.
And I wanted something funny. So I was like, not my vibe right now.
Well, based on what I've heard from their podcast, I will say I don't think it's that funny.
No.
But it's definitely a good show. But yeah, that show just ended just before the beginning of June. So here we are, Succession. And you marathoned this, right?
Yeah, in like a week. A week.
You started from the pilot all the way through?
Yes, because I had seen the pilot once before. Yeah. And it was one of those shows, I know we've talked about this. I'm kind of glad I waited until like the end of the show in its entirety because the buildup to me watching this show felt like every time we talked to each other, hung out, you're like, did you do it yet? Did you start it? Did you start it? And finally I started it without my fiance because usually I have to wait for him to watch things. But I was like, it was very easy. I didn't feel like a task. I'll tell you that. I was in it.
I will say, and I don't know if you have the same feeling, but it's the kind of thing that I can only watch once. Like, I feel like maybe now after it's over, if like I turned the TV on and it was already on, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll just sit through it. I remember this. But it's one of those shows that's like so heavy and weighty and like dense. I shouldn't say dense. That's even the wrong word. But like comparing it to another show we're going to talk about on the podcast as you know, in the next couple of weeks is Barry, which they're like little bite-sized episodes. Everything is like pretty condensed. This, it's very drawn out, but I will say, I know like there's a lot of thought that goes into the cinematography and all that stuff. Like there's way too much stuff for us to cram into here to talk about.
It's so intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, when you said heavy and dense, I can tell you my mental state while watching the show, as you can tell by my voice, I've been fighting a demon cold walking pneumonia gifted to me by my adorable niece and nephew.
Yeah.
But it brought me to some dark places. And you can't, it's one of those shows when you watch it, you love it.
Yeah.
But when you binge watch it, it felt like I was in a constant state of anxiety and like stress and heartbreak. And like you said, we were texting before this, that last episode. I mean, I know we'll get to it, but I just finished it 10 minutes before we recorded this. And I am just like, I need a hug. I feel like I need a hug.
Yeah, I had a little bit of time to digest it. I watched it live, which I never watched any of the episodes live, but I was like, I have to watch it live with the rest of the world. Because, and the other thing too is to go back a couple episodes at least, Connor's wedding
when Logan dies.
Yeah. Which was funny because to your point, I mean, my wife watched the pilot. She wasn't into it. And I've definitely heard too, there are a lot of people who were like, I tried it. I wasn't into it. It wasn't my thing, which is, fair enough. It's an acquired taste. But I was watching it to make sure I was up to date for the podcast. And my wife was like, I'll watch it. She obviously wasn't up to date with the show at all. Had never seen anything except for the pilot. And then we go into Connor's wedding. And then that happens. I was like, you just witnessed like one of the greatest episodes in television history. Like it was
easily.
Yeah.
And I felt like that after the season 3 finale. So when I watched that episode, I was like, well, they just acted their fucking socks off.
Yeah. At the end of season 3, we get that weird heel turn, I want to call it, of like the kid. Well, Kendall breaks down. The kids are finally friendly enough. I think it was the first time it was like, oh wow, they're actually acting like siblings a little bit. And then they go to like take on their dad and they get heel turned by Tom, which came out of nowhere.
I was just like, And I think that's where we should start with this is maybe let's talk about the characters, because this is one of those shows. The entire show is the characters and their development or lack thereof or plummet or whatever it may be, because I love other actors when you ask them, oh, if you could be in one show right now, what would it be? And they say Succession, like across the board.
Yeah.
And I think it's because there's so much room. Every single character just went to the highest highs and the lowest lows.
Yeah.
And every actor got to act the shit out of their parts.
Oh,
that's why I love this show.
Yeah. And I will say too, I mean, it plays out like a Greek tragedy or something like to that effect. And going in, and because of that, I almost expected it to be like, all right, they're just going to like take some, old Shakespeare play or something and then just like rename it, modernize it, and that's going to be what the show is, right? They didn't do that. I give them a lot of credit because they could have easily copped out and just did something to that extent. It would have been like, oh, Succession's just a modern day retelling of, Romeo and Juliet, like, one of those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And they didn't, but at the same time, they kept true to that style of it being like, the way the characters are set up, the kids are princes and princesses, right? Like and you have the king and who's going to be crowned the king. And it's done so well like that. And then you combine that with a lot of the great writing. The writing was amazing. And I'll get to this deeper in a little bit too, but because of the way it was filmed, there was also a lot of room for some ad-libbing, which Jeremy Strong did a lot. Kendall did a lot. And including in the finale.
He was, I will just say, he was, I can't imagine playing that deadpan. And from what I've seen, he stayed true to that off camera, right? He went full method.
And it's really funny too. I just read an interview too that Jeremy did with Deadline, and they brought that up of like, hey, there was all these comments or whatever that Brian Cox had made, it sounds a lot like, well, first off, I will say, if you go back and read some of the quotes from Brian Cox, he wasn't as Brian Coxy as I think people expected it to be. Like he was just like, it annoyed the shit out of me. But a lot of the stuff that I see Brian Cox is quoted in, you go back and either watch the interview or read deeper into the interview, and he's not really saying what the clickbaity articles are, right? He was just like, he was sort of like, yeah, every once in a while, like Jeremy's method acting would kind of get on my nerves or piss me off, right? Which, when you're trying to talk to someone and they're like, they won't come out of character, I can get that. there was another thing that Brian Cox had said somewhere else where he had mentioned that he was a little bit devastated that they killed off his character so early on in the season. And he said that, like, in the interview, he sort of explained, or the way I finally read it was, as an actor, as someone who's a part of this for so long, suddenly he's like, it's like, all right, we're cutting you short. You're out. It's great for the story. It's good for the
for
the
sure,
story.
yeah.
But for him personally, he's like, I felt like they just like threw me in the trash, right? Like they just kind of.
How did you feel about it? Did you feel like it was too early?
No, I mean, I think that's what makes the show great is, number one, the fact that they kept it under wraps, right? There were some other things that had come out too, of like when they filmed the funeral scene in New York, Brian Cox still showed up to set, right, to throw people off the scent.
Yeah.
But I think to the point, and actually I'll give him credit, right? Brian Cox said it in that interview where he did defend the writing and explaining like the actual like efforts of killing off his character. He's like, the show is called Succession, right? So if
had to succeed at some point.
Right, exactly. So we have to see that play out, and we're not going to see it play out if he doesn't die until the final episode, right? They can't, Logan dies, which kid will get it, roll credits, end of show, because the whole point of the show is the succession. That's the title. That's what the whole drama is about. And yeah, so I mean, I think it was great. I can't believe they kept it on the wraps. I can't believe that never leaked, or like no one paid attention to leaks if it was out there. But so well done, and honestly, like, it's there's so much credit to be given here. I think overall, this was like the best season of the show there was. But you have to get into those characters, especially Logan, to get there, right? You can't feel the loss of the character. And the other thing I'll mention there too, last thing, is season 4 takes place over the course of like a week, right? Like each episode is almost a day. Like some episodes carry over like a day or two. And so the show had normally like kept progressing really quick in every other season. And then you get to the final season and everything's really slow. And I don't know if they translated that as well to the screen, because you almost like lose it. Like when they go to visit Madsen, it's like, I don't know, they obviously stay there overnight, at least 1 or 2 nights, I think.
They have to, for it to make sense.
Yeah. And so anyway, but like another thing that Brian Cox had mentioned there too was the fact that because the show takes place like that, it's really like he's only been gone for like a week by the time you get to the end. That's
so wild. And you know what? It doesn't really make sense either, because they're playing the pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. They had to do what they had to do because Sarah Snook, who plays Shiv, was pregnant. So
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah, well, I think she was. Again, I should have fact checked that. But yes, I thought I read something on the tick and the
I'll take it. Yeah, sure. We'll start the rumors.
But this, I don't know how to describe Kendall's character without saying, like, he made me so, I couldn't figure out the whole time, do I fucking hate this character?
Yeah.
Do I love this character? Do I want to give this character a hug, or do I want to watch him jump off the building?
Yeah.
And I felt like that every goddamn episode. When I thought I had my mind up, I was like, oh, there it goes. And I can say the same for almost every other character in this show.
Yeah.
And Kendall felt like the most prominent. I think Kendall, everyone feels that way.
Yes.
But I also felt like that way with Shiv, with Logan, even with Tom. I feel like we have to talk about Greg. Cousin Greg is just... If I had to pick a favorite character, not the one I like the most or feel bad for the most, but it's definitely Greg.
He's very cringy. And at the same time, too, have you caught all the different like shipping videos with him and Tom everywhere?
Oh, my God. Incredible. And I mean, there's so much inference about who these characters are based on. And like, there's moments where you can see like an Elon Musk poke with Mr.
Madsen.
What's his name? Yeah. But you can feel that, there's definitely with Connor running for president and just being like the forgotten rich son who just doesn't want to pay his taxes. I mean, hi, hello. But there's just, I feel like if we were to be of the very wealthy elite, which we are not, I feel like this shit just happens. It feels so insane, but I'm sure this shit happens.
Yeah. One side note, and I'm doing it right now.
Yeah.
Or I had done it. I already changed, but I'll do it again right now as we're talking. There was an article somewhere, and I wish I'll figure out where it is so I can give the credit properly. But they were saying that the new was it like secret elite or secret like basically like there's this entire concept of like being secretly rich or like being rich but not too showy about it. And one of the signs of that, and I got to see if I can find the article, is not having a case on your phone. And they showed, there was like screenshots from the show of like Madsen walking around with his phone with no case on it. And
I'm telling you right now, that is so freaking funny because my fiance and I, every time we see people with like a brand new iPhone or no case on it, and I'm like, oh, you know that motherfucker's rich. And when I was a bartender, if a business guy sat at my bar Monday through Thursday, I knew they were traveling on business, and they sat at the bar with a cell phone with no case on it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting more than 20% here. And I'm telling you, it adds up. And I don't know about you, and I think you had mentioned this to me.
Yeah.
That iPhone thing about the bad guys.
Yeah.
Bad guys never have an iPhone. It holds up in this show.
I thought you were the one who told me about that. I mean, I've heard about it before.
But we've talked about it in other shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you told me when I told you I hadn't started this, you're like, I just wanted to let you know there's a character in the show, Logan, and I noticed he does not have an iPhone. And it was just so funny that it really, it holds up. Holds up.
It does. We have to jump to, we have to talk about the episode, the final episode, because there was a few things that I recognize, and I will say the show was like, or the episode's like an hour and change, right? It's like almost like an hour and a half. Yeah.
It took me an hour and a half. Yeah.
But you can, I mean, once you get to the end, even me going back to like look for clips and things to make sure I was like up to date and, did my research. I actually did my research for this episode, which is a rare thing I ever do.
I'm so proud of you.
But I mean, once you get to the end, you can kind of skip a lot of the beginning, right? I think the main scenes that really matter are the kids gleefully hanging out, which also, side note, I want to go to Barbados now because that's apparently where they're
add it to our White Lotus list.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Our vacation map. But the scene of them all being siblings together in the kitchen and licking cheese and making the feast like fit for a king. It made
me cry.
I know. Well, that was the last
scene. Emotional.
That was the last scene they filmed. So at least for the cast.
That makes sense because it felt it. It felt like the end of something, or like maybe because I knew it was the last episode, but it was like at least this moment happened. Whatever happens after this moment happened because you thought it was going to happen so many more times. Like when Kendall's telling them about how he killed the waiter, right?
Yeah, and
he's just breaking down, and you see them like no matter what's happening, they fucking hate him in that moment, and they become siblings again.
Yeah, I always love the looks that Shiv and Roman will shoot each other around Kendall, where they're just like, "What the fuck do I don't know what to do?" Like, just like, how do you handle Kendall? Like, he's another sibling.
God, he's like a cracked out Eeyore. He's depressed all the time, always high.
But I want to jump ahead a little bit, but connect the dots there. There's that scene in the end when at the end of the episode, almost the end of the episode, where they're arguing and, Shiv is changing her mind, where she calls him out like, you killed a guy. And he's like, which one? Like, I dissected that moment so much trying to figure out, did he block it out? Has he convinced himself? Is he literally saying anything and everything to just be like, no, it's okay. Just vote for me. Vote for me.
Because he's having a fucking breakdown. Yeah, in that moment. He's lost it.
Right.
He's completely lost it. Yeah.
But to that point of like rich and elite and just like disconnected from reality, I was also trying to pick up on like, maybe he does that eventually, but even like when he's like, wait, who, which one? Right. The one you like, and Roman recoils like, which one? Like
you have a fucking pile of them?
Yeah. How many of you murdered? I seriously, like, he blocked that out and has moved on so far from that it doesn't even register in his brain anymore.
Yeah.
And even when faced with it, I think I don't think he actually blocks it out. I think he is just saying whatever. But in that moment you have, and it's a little dose of reality of like, wait, I killed someone? Oh yeah, you're right. I did. Oh, I mean, no, no, I just lied. I lied about that. It was all a lie.
It's alarm. That whole scene, it like made me, I was pressing my fingernails into my palms because I was like, oh my God, he's lost it. And you've watched him lose it so many times over the episode, but he's so far from reality in that moment. I don't even think he would have said anything.
Yeah,
he would have literally said or done anything to get that vote from Shiv.
Yeah. Which do you think, well, I guess when you were watching the episode, were you still...
You mean 20 minutes ago? Yeah. Yeah. I still was everything.
Were you convinced that she, like, were you convinced she was going to change her mind or not? Like, were you on the fence too?
Okay, so part of you just wants them to fucking win. Come together for once.
Yeah.
But her heart is broken telling him, I don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do it.
Yeah.
And I think him lying to them about killing, or him saying he lied to them about killing the kid.
Yeah.
When we know he did.
Yeah.
And like, what's he supposed to say after that? But they lose their minds thinking like, what? Like our most human moment that we've had with you in years happened in that moment. And it was a play. Like, are you kidding me? I agreed with her then.
Yeah.
I was like, he can't do this. Like, you want him to have done it. Your heart's already broken because Roman's just like, just had his why not me? Why couldn't it have been me? You just watch him come to that moment. And that was, it broke my heart.
Yeah.
That was hard to watch. Really hard to watch. But I didn't until that moment, until she said, you really can't do it.
Yeah.
Was I like, oh, she can't fucking vote yes. Like, he's lost it.
Yeah. To unpack that a little bit,
which was weird. It was a weird moment.
It was. And we've seen Shiv flip-flop so many times over everything, right? Including like her support of her brothers. And that's
Tom,
maybe that's
like poor Tom.
Yeah. That I was almost like unsure of like which way is gonna, like it's gonna swing one way or the other. But I will say you're right. Once he reveals, or once he's like, oh yeah, that murder didn't really happen. I made it up. I made it all up. Up until that point, Roman is also chastising her, being like, Shiv, just let's go vote for him and let's be over with this. And the moment that he says, oh yeah, the murder, I just made that up, Roman turns on Kendall. And then it's like, he's like, no, fuck you, dude. All right. And that's when he pulls out all the stops and then reveals. And I love the fact that the show didn't lead you on to like let you believe things or tell you something forever ago. All the little shitty things that come out of like dad said this and dad said that, based on the character he did, right? That he
about like Kendall's kids,
right? Ooh. Like not being part of the bloodline. They had a shitty father who would just, promised them all the company at one point in time. But to go back, I was reading again more quotes and things from the either Jesse Armstrong, the creator and writer, or the director, of the moment that Shiv's mind changes is a little bit earlier in The Office when Kendall puts his feet up on the desk. That's the moment.
Whoa.
That's the moment where it shifts.
And that's fresh in my brain right now, too. So I can see that moment in my head.
Right. And
I just want to rewatch that scene to see if you can read it on her face, because I'm sure you can, and I missed it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because I think, she's reluctantly proceeding, right? I think, she's always looking for like what's in her best interest. All of them want to be CEO from one angle or the other. It's just that Shiv is a little bit more reserved in that aspect, and she'll go along with what the best angle is in general, and then you have Kendall. But the moment Kendall puts his feet up on the desk, it proves to her, I'm gonna get cut out. That's it.
Yeah, I'm on the chopping block. He's already got his agenda. Yeah.
And there's something else too, where when they're doing the call, just before they get to Shiv, they go to Roman, and Roman pauses for a moment because he's sort of doing the same thing. He's swallowing it because he's like, it's not going to be me. It's never going to be me. And then he's like, no. And then when he says no, and then Kendall mutters to himself a little bit, but like, or like silently says, that's fucking right. And then
it's chilling. It's like chilling. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's all those like little things of anytime any character is prematurely celebrating anything, right? Which you go back to the beginning of the episode and Shiv is at, her mom's place in Barbados with them. And she's like, give it up. We won already. And as soon as she says that, I'm like, that's not going to happen.
It's game over.
Right?
Yeah. It's kind of the recipe of the show.
Right. I mean, it's a recipe for a lot of shows and movies and stuff in general, but like especially this one, it's like the moment someone pops the champagne and says, yeah, I won without actually winning.
See, you haven't seen Game of Thrones because there's so many Game of Thrones Lannister crossovers, but I'm sure that can be said of many families in these types of shows. But
yeah,
there was, just as an overarching thing, because we are talking about the last episode, but I mean, I don't think there's a character on the show I can be like, oh my God, I fucking hated them.
Yeah.
Or there's not a single character on the show that I'm like, I love them. Even Greg.
Yeah.
Great fucking character. Just in the world of writing on television, fantastic character. Because I'll be honest with you, Greg is probably what a lot of us would do in that situation, right? Embarrassingly so.
Yeah.
We've never been around that kind of money. We've never had that access to wealth. Like, what the hell would you do? Like, somebody's like, hey, do you want to make a deal with the devil? When he's like, what do I need a soul for?
Yeah.
And it's just like such a great line. But at the same time, who's to say I would not do that if somebody was just offering me a 500,000 a year, job. And, like, you're going to say those things. You're going to be that guy. And while he is one of the cringiest characters ever in, I'm like, if I'm being real, that's probably me. I'm cousin Greg.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the way Greg, whereas I think everyone else is playing a role and playing a game or playing angles, he's the one who like does it where it's like very obvious he's playing an angle, right? Like,
and he like says it too. He's such a dork. Yeah.
I love when Kendall's like, just take your shot, Greg. Just take your shot. Like, just, like, cut the bullshit. Like, just say it.
I think we all forget, was it the first episode you see him at the park smoking weed in his shitty car and then he pukes out the eyeballs of the mascot? Like, we've all been there, right, Greg?
Yeah. Going back to, I got to say, so Tom, I had a feeling Tom would be the succession. He would be crowned king at some point, but that was the thing. It's almost this like perspective in general on like the world of corporate culture of like, the guy with his head down, just being a puppet. That's the guy that wins, right? It's not someone. That's the thing. They're all running around, even in the scene waiting for the votes or like calling for the votes. Kendall is just like, this deal, it's bullshit. It's a bad deal, right? He's all like, he's just spouting shit.
I already know what's going to happen. Yeah. And did you catch, I saw this on TikTok. There's a scene, I want to say it's the episode after the wedding.
Yeah.
Where we find out that Kendall's middle name is Logan.
Yes. Oh, I didn't know about that. Yeah.
So he kind of like, that's almost hinting at the fact that Logan always had intended Kendall to be attached to him in, some way, maybe be the successor. But I don't know. I think going back to the final episode, you kind of know everything you need to know about each character by the time it wraps up, which I like.
Yeah.
I mean, also hands up to my girl fucking Jerry. Come on.
I know. I was a little bit disappointed that Jerry just got relegated to like person in background down
getting dick pics. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, like getting her severance package, golden parachute thing. But wait, just going back 1 second. So I want to make sure I make the point clearly. When, Logan Roy built the company, he's an older guy, right? He just gets to come in like in the beginning of the season when he shows up at the ATN newsroom and just gets up on a stack of, which by the way, gets up on a stack of, on boxes that was literally copied from something done at Fox News. I don't know if you saw that picture. Anyway, he can just spout off whatever he wants, right? Because it's his company. He's been there forever. He built it from the ground up. Now he gets to sit back and just, call shots. That is how Kendall and all of them really have ever seen their dad run the company, right? So Kendall's in the boardroom, and instead of pitching anything to the board or anything, he's just very pedestrian speak, right? He doesn't have presentations. He's just like, yeah, the deal's bullshit. We should vote against it. Yeah, the deal's, and he has almost like nothing to say. All he keeps saying is the deal is bullshit. And I think in that moment too, it's like, oh my God, this guy isn't a CEO. He's just some guy who thinks that like being a CEO, being a leader is just having ideas and yelling at people. If you go back to the Living Plus thing where he's like, yeah, but make it happen, right? Never say no, whatever his thing is, right? It's just his idea of leadership is just telling people what to do and they just execute it. And there's no actual ideas. And
he's like every tech person.
Yeah.
At these, like you hear these horror stories from people in tech startups sometimes where they're like, they get a fuck ton of money. They come in, they've got buzzwords. They yell them at people and expect them to be executed. And that's kind of what his character becomes, right? Like he wants to be one of the tech bros. He can't be one of the tech bros because he's too fucking rich.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the background. Yeah. But also isn't the opposite end like his father. I don't know. And I to your point, do you think that Logan, I don't know. I feel like I've seen so many conflicting stories about Logan's death and like how that affected them as people. And did he go off the deep end because of that? Sure. Yeah. Same way that, Roman does. But just the way that the episode ends up is like the sign of a good show is you finish the episode going, man, I wonder what Logan would think about how it went down. Yeah. And there's always these moments, even when Kendall was at his most ruthless, where Logan, like when he does that press conference and then you see Logan kind of smirk, like there's a little pride for his son for being such a fucking ruthless piece of shit, you know?
Yeah. Because that's his idea of leadership, right? That's like his
to wrap up your fact. Yeah.
And so, I think that's the misguided part is that if they're going to move on or grow as a company or anything, you can't keep doing that. You can't just sit there and call shots and be ruthless and blah, blah. Like that's just old school ways of thinking. And I mean, that's the entire point of the story, I think, at the end. But and I was going to save this for later because this is very juicy to me, but I'll mention it here because it was something you had said about like the characters over time. There's something that happens in this final episode that a lot of people haven't really mentioned that much or focused on, but I think it's super worth. I'm just making up new words now.
I like that one. Super worth.
There's the point when they go to their dad's old apartment.
Ooh.
And so there's a few things that to unravel here, and I'll save the part that's I think the most important for last. But Connor is in charge, right? Because Connor bought the apartment. Him and his wife are basically going to live apart, right? This
side, a dream for her. Come on.
Yeah. She's getting what she wants. He's getting what he wants. And first off, they're like, oh, what happened to the awards, right? All the medal, and he's like, well, I did that first pass, so that was his, right? He took that. The other kids could care less about it. They're just like, oh, what happened to those things? And then he says it and they just move on because they don't give a shit. I think the thing that changes about the character and your view of the characters, many of the characters, is watching that video. Because if you go back a couple episodes, right, in the beginning, right, when they're over in Europe on that trip to go woo Madsen, right, Connor's calling them, annoying the shit out of them about their dad's funeral and what he's gonna wear, or like all these like little intricate things, caring about their father, and they're just like, we don't give a shit, Connor, whatever the fuck you want to do, right? And then in that video, you suddenly see an entirely different family. Connor, you had mentioned it before, like he's like like the father doesn't take, he's just a rich kid, right? And he's like, I want to go run for president. He's like, yeah, whatever. All right, whatever. Do what you want.
Yeah, play with your toys.
Yeah. But in that moment, there's that thing where, and I have the clip actually. I'll play it right now. But there's this clip of Connor and his dad and a bunch of other people, including Jerry's in there and everybody else, but of being a family. But hang on, let me play the clip.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am a little teapot. Oh, good. Okay? In the manner of Mr. Logan Roy. Very good.
Oh my gosh.
Show. I am a little teapot. Fuck off! Short and stout. What did you fucking call me? Here's my handle. Here's my fucking spout. When I get steamed up, you can hear me shout. Frank Vernon is a moron. Carl Miller is a kraut. What's that? Pops did not like it.
Yeah, see, like, they're just being everything the opposite of what Shiv and Roman and Kendall are like as kids together.
I know, that's so sad.
But what's funny about it is if you go back and you pay attention again to some of the things that happen over the course of all the seasons, you know, they're in a room and they're all trying to like figure out how do we do this? They're all coming up with angles, and it's almost played for laughs in the beginning where Connor's just like, whatever you guys want to do, it's fine with me, right? Like, just I'll vote however you guys want to vote.
That's who he's been, the whole show.
He's just like, hey, whatever. And then there's another scene too, back at the end when the three of them are arguing in that office, where he shouts, "I'm the eldest boy." Right?
I know, but it is kind of sad. I will be honest with you.
Yeah.
I am so pathetic sometimes, the way that I'm like, oh my God, it's so sad. And I do this with everything. I get it from my mother, but the whole show, it's like you can blatantly fucking see that Connor is going to be this type of person.
Yeah.
Because of how forgotten he is. Every single thing, it's just a triangle of drama where Connor's on the outside like, yeah, sure, guys, whatever you want. Anything to make you like me. Oh, you have to come to my ranch to fake therapy for the first time since I've had it in years. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure, guys, come on over and then let's watch a therapist's teeth get knocked out because he dives into the pool head first. It was just so sad. I was like, the first time the poor guy gets to show his life off. Who does he marry? A call girl that he's been paying to marry him for, years and years and years. His whole story is so fucking sad. And every time he gets like an inch of confidence, it's like, I'm the oldest boy. It's like you just want to like push him off a cliff and be like, oh, it's for your own good, man.
Yeah.
It's for your own good. He's so pathetically sad and you feel bad for him. And they cast him perfectly.
Yeah, but I will say too, when Shiv's reaction to Kendall screaming, "I'm the eldest boy," where she's like, "No, you are not,
no, sir." Yeah,
like, and that's how delusional he is. Is like even in the within the siblings, and obviously, Connor had a different mom, and we finally get a little bit of that story. We get a little bit of story about what happened to his sister.
Looney cake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At the wedding, that was so sad.
Yeah. But they're all broken. But that's the thing too, is even there's that moment after at the end of Connor's wedding where he just says, fuck it, and they get married in Jersey City or Hoboken, wherever it was. And he's just like content, like, this is my day. I know no one else was there. Everyone else left. It was how little care his siblings put into their attire, right? Like Kendall's not even wearing a tie or anything he's just open collar, like he showed up.
Yeah. And Shiv, who's like insanely fashionable, is just wearing a black pantsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even the father, who, despite everything else, was never intending on showing up to the wedding.
Flying to Sweden to die.
But that's the thing, is like Connor got more of a real dad out of the dad than anyone else did.
It's very true.
And
loved him blindly.
Yeah.
Blindly. Yeah.
But I thought that scene was so important, and because you can now go back and be like, oh shit, there's a whole different dynamic at play. The relationship is completely different than what I expected. So anyway. So
should we talk about the show? And this is your nerd scene, so I will not pretend to know what it's talking about.
Yeah, hit me.
But how this was shot. So it feels mockumentary, documentary.
Yes.
Like the anxiety of the quick jilts of the camera. Like, I don't know this stuff. I know you do, but you feel it in scenes, the way that it does fast pans to people's expressions or just parts of people's faces, so you can get the expression in the background. Yeah. And I mean, the perfect example for me and how a scene was shot and how brilliant it was is Adam McKay, right?
Adam McKay didn't direct it, but he was the original producer.
Original, okay.
On it.
So,
yeah.
Just like the scene where they're at the company retreat and they play, what is the game where they're throwing the sausages? Four on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm thinking, this is so over the top. Like, this would never happen. And then I'm watching it being like, no, this probably happens. Not this exact thing, but forms of this situation.
Yeah.
Where you have grown ass adults making more money in a year than we could ever think of.
Yeah.
On the ground in $10,000 suits on their hands and knees, catching sausages people are throwing at them. And while grown adults are chanting "bore on the floor."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just remember watching that being like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But the way that scene is shot, I felt the anxiety. I felt uncomfortable. And for a second, I was like, oh, this is kind of funny. And I was like, no, how could you think this is funny? Who are you?
Well, that's the thing about the way the show is filmed is it is done in a way where it seems like the camera is reacting in real time. And obviously it's not. I mean, that's one of the things that's great about the show to actually, relate it, right? I mentioned in the beginning, there was a lot of ad-libbing that would happen on the show. And they're able to do that because they're shooting single camera, but it's film, but it's on a steady cam. So they're doing all these different things that are like, basically you shouldn't all do at the same time. And I will say, one of the things in the finale, the part where
was that Adam McKay that called that? Like, I want it shot on film. He went full Big Short on it.
Yeah, he emulated the style that they did in The Big Short.
Okay.
That was the goal there. And I have to pull up who the director of cinematography was, but I will say, I mean, that's part of it, right? Because there was that scene at the end of the finale where Kendall then tries going back in the boardroom and like trying to we should like adjourn, and he's like, "Done, it's over." That was improv by Jeremy, by Kendall. And he did that, but they're able to do it and react to it because of the way everything is lit and set up, right? It's not set up like a stage or anything. Like the camera can go wherever it needs to go. In fact, and I didn't even realize it, and I love when this happens, you don't even realize it, but in the Connor's wedding episode, from when they find out about the dad, there is a full, I forget how long it runs, but it is a single shot for like
he runs
20
to
minutes.
Get Siobhan? When they find out and they're around the room, and then he runs to go get Shiv from the floor. Oh my God.
Yeah, it is single shot, right? And it's beautifully done, where they can only run it. But the thing is, the way it's designed is that that camera can follow him around the boat and through hallways and everything else. But the way the camera reacts, right? And there's a few scenes, and what makes it, to dissect it a little bit, what I love about it and what makes it work is the camera isn't all the way in, right? It isn't just like showing two people. It is far back. There's like out of focus shoulders that it's shooting over, right? Because it's almost like you're listening into conversations. You're not there. You're a viewer. But the camera also reacts sometimes when like someone says something shocking, or all of a sudden like that scene, like the bore on the floor scene, it's chaotic. It's like, what the fuck is happening? Oh my God,
the anxiety through the roof.
And the camera's moving that way.
It's moving that way. It's moving so quickly. And the anxiety of that scene happened to me, not by the people in the forefront, the people in the background.
Yeah.
You're looking at their faces and they're all quickly looking at each other like, what the fuck is happening? None of us can speak up because we will get murdered here.
Yeah.
Like our dicks are on the chopping block. He's got the mallet. We're going down. Shut up. But like, are you going to stop this? I'm not going to stop this. Who's going to stop this? And it's, I don't know. It to me, that's one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen shot.
Yeah.
And like the anxiety, everything, the way it built up. But that makes sense the way you explained it. It is very, it feels like you're there the whole time.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, they don't never use lockdown camera kind of shots. They typically use like the steady cam. And even in the funeral episode, right? Like the reaction to what's being said, and then the scene where Roman breaks down, which is Kieran Culkin. I love him to death, right? Like just
supposed to play Greg, originally cast as Greg.
Really?
Yes. Which no way. He's like the best. If you watch Game of Thrones, everyone knows what I'm talking about. He's got Joffrey vibes, but like redeeming Joffrey vibes.
Yeah.
And best spoiled brat ever played on television. Yeah. Like at the end of the show, I'm like, oh, my poor little baby Roman, when he's such a fucktard through the whole show.
Yeah.
But he's he's unapologetically authentic the whole show.
We glazed over it, but I will say there's that scene, and I finally got some closure on like what the intent there was too, where you had mentioned it before when he's in the office. He's like, why couldn't it be me? Why can't it be me?
God.
And there's that moment where Kendall hugs him, but then, because I was like, what is actually happening? Right? He's obviously hurting him, but like, what's the intention? And it is this weird embrace where he's trying to console him, but then like, obviously he's hurting him. He's ripping the stitches. That's what he's doing. And I'm still a little bit unclear too of like, you know, the intent, because obviously Roman gets himself hurt. I say gets himself hurt.
I was going to say, because I thought I felt it in that moment. I thought I figured it out. It's like, he knows that Roman seeks solace in pain. Like he gets off to pain, humiliation, physical pain, emotional pain. And in that moment, I think that Kendall's gift to him is, I'm going to rip your stitches wide open, because pain makes you feel a release of all this emotion, and then you feel comfort.
Yeah.
Is that how you felt it? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. I mean, that was the whole thing too, of like him going into the crowd, right, at the end of the funeral episode to get himself hurt. All of that is all of that is a move to just like relieve himself of pain with physical pain. Yeah. Like that's it. And so
doesn't he say like in the stitches scene, it popped or something like that? He's like, it popped. And then you just see him like, oh, you know, I can let go.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, because he's looking in the mirror, looking at his stitches, right? And then he gets that hug. And it's all because he's feeling pain. He has this, you know, weird thing with Jerry that you know, she's there, but like, you know, yeah, I mean, even that whole thing, his relationship with Jerry also is a whole other thing to unpack that I don't even know where the fuck to start there.
Jerry.
Yeah, I love Jerry. She was
call
great.
him a slime pig?
Yeah, I think in fact, I want to say our one of our teaser Instagram posts for this episode.
That's so funny. Yes. That's so good.
But I will say too that also really funny, something we didn't get, and I read about this. It was a deleted scene when a couple episodes. Yeah, this is going to blow your mind a little bit, maybe. So we go back a couple episodes. The episode where they go up to see Madsen in the top of the mountain, right? They all fly out there. Did you note at the end of the episode where they're talking about who might be on the kill list, and Jerry's name was not on the kill list?
Not at all. No.
Do you remember that? Okay, so there was like only like 2 people saved. That were like not going to be fired by if Madsen took over, and that was the PR person, I forget her name, who Tom calls out for at the end of the episode, which was great, and like just disregards Fisher Stevens, like yeah, where's what's her name?
You're good.
And Jerry, and it's like, well, why Jerry? It was never really explained. Apparently, there is a deleted scene somewhere that they're all schwitzing in like a sauna somewhere. And all the dudes are out with, you know, like sausage hanging from, you know, just like full nudity. And then Jerry just walks in fully nude and joins them. As
my
like
girl.
As like a fuck it, I can keep up. You know, I'm one of them. And
what
I guess
a
that
power move.
Exactly. And it earned her enough respect to be like, well, fuck, we're not going to let her go. Like, yeah, she can carry her own shit.
I wonder why deleted.
I don't know why, but and I will note, obviously, the show, there's been no nudity in the entire series.
Okay.
But there's a deleted scene somewhere of Jerry, you know, tits out, just, you know, showing that she can keep up with.
Go for Jerry, my
guys.
girl.
Yeah. But that's the reason why she doesn't end up on the kill list, is because she made a move to just show like, yeah, I'm not going to go hide in my cave, whatever.
I love that. I loved her. She was great. The actress that played her was great. And when I was looking up, like, you know, that a lot of times with a lot of these shows where it's like so-and-so auditioned to play so-and-so, like on Ted Lasso, which we will be getting to, folks. Jeremy Strong auditioned for Roman and played by Kieran Culkin, who we now know was supposed to be Greg.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious. That's who he auditioned for.
Yeah.
And I also saw another thing that was like kind of, a little meta, is that they did their first read through for the show ever on Election Day 2016, which is so crazy because Connor ends up being the Donald Trump alike.
Yeah. I read that too, about like that was the first day. And that was another thing that carried through is, the show was already going through the motions of being like, pretend this is like a Fox News-ish organization. And it's sort of like the Murdochs, right? But not the Murdochs.
Yeah.
And then everything that happened, right? Like even like, Disney buying Fox and all these other things happened throughout the entire show. I didn't realize until I saw Jeremy Strong say it in an interview, it had been 7 years. I mean, obviously there's like some separation because, there's, between seasons and then COVID was in there somewhere too. Yeah. And it was 7 years he played that character. Method, by the way.
That's so crazy. And I've seen that like, Brian Cox met with Elizabeth Murdoch's husband.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Murdoch was like, it's too hard to watch the show. Well, yeah, I'm sure it would be hard to watch the show, Ms. Murdoch.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about this without talking about Kendall's rap.
Oh my God.
That felt like a fucking fever dream.
I will say, let me just say this too.
And the cast didn't see it before that moment. Which makes it so good, because if you watch Shiv and Tom Wagsabuth, whatever his name is, I don't know. Yeah, what's the actor's name? I can never remember his name.
I don't know, but he's great. I love him.
When you watch them in that moment, the sheer glee and happiness on their face, like you can tell they did not know this was coming. She is beside herself. She's like clutching her pearls, dying laughing, because it is so like I was like, I get secondhand embarrassment watching things sometimes, and I felt like my face was hot. I felt embarrassed. I was like, I can't turn away. What's happening?
I have to like turn off Curb Your Enthusiasm sometime because I'm just like, I can't handle the
get
cringe.
Embarrassed.
But I will say too, I mean, the character that the same guy is the same guy that in episode 1, and I think it completely nails it, is, and I think it's the first scene, is he is rapping to the Beastie Boys
in the back of the car. Yeah.
Brooklyn Bronx. And the thing is, he's doing it, and I love how it cuts away from the audio, so it's just him in the back seat, just, a cappella. And it sets up who the character is that he is completely oblivious to who he actually is and how he comes off. He thinks he comes off like this savant, cool, like even his birthday party is just so cringe. Everything about it is just so cringy.
Those poor babies, his poor children. That scene, I was like, oh my God, they just want to see their daddy.
I know. And that's the thing about the show. And I love how the show doesn't try to, and that's what I loved about that scene that I was talking about a little while ago, of like the video of Connor and his dad and everybody else, is because, it doesn't knock you over the head with like here's what he's a bad dad. This is what he's doing. Right.
Exactly.
You see it from his perspective and you never see it from their perspective. And I love that so much because it's like, oh, this guy is such a piece of shit. He has no clue he's a piece of shit. They all are.
Yeah,
right.
Everyone's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Everyone on the show.
Yeah.
Even Greg. Sorry, Greg, but you out.
But even like you like, and it's Kieran Culkin that, because Kieran Culkin has played the same character in like everything. And I love the guy. And I hope he gets some but like Roman is the same kid from Igby Goes Down, which is the same guy from Scott Pilgrim. Like it's the same character, just a snarky asshole who just like keeps going. And that's the other thing too, because I saw a lot of people talking about the final scene with him at the bar getting like the martini or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Was
it a martini, by the way? Because I know, you can call me out of whether I got the
it was a martini. Wrong. He didn't have a garnish then, though, but yes, it was a martini.
And as it gets poured, he just smirks and he smiles and he's happy. And I saw somewhere from with one of the creators or the director or someone being like, he is back exactly where he was from episode 1 of season 1, which is like, he's off on his life. He's fine. Right. He rode this roller coaster And he was like, he didn't get anything out of it. He had enjoyed the journey. He's out the other side and he's free. You can go back to being the Roman from before episode 1, season 1.
Him.
Shiv is stuck in a marriage, but
Shiv. I was just gonna say, now we have to talk about poor Shiv.
Yeah.
And I'm always rooting for the female characters to come out on top as badasses.
Yeah.
And she did her goddamn damnedest this whole show.
Yeah.
But there is a definite, I mean, she truly loved her father. And that the whole, what is that, season 2 and 3, where she truly thought it was going to be her. She was promised, was it season 2 where he promised that,
that's right. I remember.
they were in the Hamptons and he was like, it's going to be you.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is where she comes alive. And like, I've seen some TikToks and I couldn't get enough information on it to confirm, but each of their names indicated what they would do and who they would be in the show.
I kept saying,
and I was like,
her
okay,
name is Shiv.
Shiv is going to shank someone in prison.
Which
but
she did. She shipped
sure
him in
did.
the end. Yeah, she absolutely did.
Oh, God. But Tom, it's like, if you talk about Shiv, you can't not talk about Tom. Like, she was the top dog in the marriage, right? Like, she was on top. She called the shots, the whole relationship. And when they're planning their wedding, you can just see she's like, whatever you want, honey. You want me to do this? I'll do this for you. You want this? I'll do this for you. But there's moments as the season 4 goes on where at some point, if she's going to stay with Tom and have this baby, she's taking the back seat to him. And you just like that scene, the very last scene of them sitting in the car. Yeah. He texts her, I've got a car coming in 20 minutes. Meet you outside. She doesn't falter. She gets in the car. She knows she's about to be in a loveless marriage with him for the rest of her life because that's her status and her money now. Yep. And he just puts his hand out and like, you just know, like, oh, there it is, girl. You lost that upper hand.
Were you also waiting for the hand to like close for that to embrace? Because that's what I was like, the fact that it didn't, you almost instinctively are like waiting for him to embrace her hand and he doesn't.
For sure. He doesn't. And it's, I feel like it's a power move where he's like, no, I don't have to love you because you gave me a name and position anymore. It's the other way around.
Yeah. And that was the thing too, is like from the first episode, you know, remember from the pilot, Tom is like, I want to get your dad something nice, right? Something that like,
watch.
You know, the watch, which they just toss at that family.
Give to the poor little piece of family.
Shit. But but from that moment, you're right? I think she is okay with him because he's nothing, right? He's just like, yeah, you're just milquetoast, right? You're whatever, right?
I'm gonna bang this guy that I used to date. Yeah.
And it's not until, you know, and then she recoils when he stands up to her and goes around her with the dad. And that's when she throws a tantrum. But the entire season of like her lashing out at him, like Shiv has daddy issues. Absolutely. And her whole relationship with Tom is keyed on that because, you know, there's been a lot of talk too about like, well, why did Shiv change her mind, right? Like, even if, you know, is it in her best interest to like have Tom win, but like, is it that she saw she had an out still, right? That she can still, if Kendall took the company, she's completely cut out. Whereas if Tom takes the company or like, you know, Gojo buys the company and Tom's the CEO, at least she still has an angle there and she's not fully cut out and she's involved.
Yeah. And I think before we were kind of painting her as the loving sister who just knew her brother couldn't do it and he would implode. But I think we do have to remember Shiv as the character. Like you just said, she's okay either way.
Right.
The father of her child is now the CEO of the company. She's fine.
And they all have egos, right? I think that's the other thing too is whether or not she had something lined up or had an angle, I think she just saw, you know, Kendall put his feet up on the desk and is like, fuck this guy. I don't want to, like, I deserve this more than he does. And I'm not going to give the green light to him doing that. And I know this has been beaten to death everywhere else, but I feel like maybe there's a few people who hadn't heard it. And maybe those one of those people is you. Do you know the story behind the very hard to pronounce Tom's last name?
No.
Wamsgans.
Wamsgans.
I'm not gonna. So, MLB history. Fun fact is there was a baseball player with the same name. It's a very odd name. It's like, where the hell did that name come from?
Whams Gams? Gans?
Wabs
Gams?
Yeah. Anyway, long story short was this player, Bill Wabs, the same as Tom. I can't do it. Just
Bill
regular.
Tom?
What's that? Not
Bill
Tom.
Tom. We'll just call him Bill Tom.
Bill Tom. Yeah, Bill Tom. Bill Tom. I love his voice, by the way. It was Game 5 of the 1920 World Series. He pulled off an unassisted triple play.
What in the fuck?
Yeah.
This is great trivia.
Yeah. So, Wabs, whatever, I can't pronounce it.
Tom Bill. Yeah.
Took out 3 players all by himself in a single play.
Okay. Well, shit.
Yeah.
See, the names do mean something, people.
Yeah.
Because I know the name Logan means king.
What does Roman mean? That's the only one I can't figure out.
Because his name's not Roman, it's Romulus.
Okay, what does Romulus mean then?
All
Romulus.
right. We're going to look this up, folks. We're going to find out. Obviously, Shiv. We already know what Shiv means.
Yeah. She stabbed him.
Okay,
right?
so he's the baby of the family. He's immature. Oh, God. This description. He's an immature imp. That's a little hard. It's a little hard.
I mean, it's not incorrect, though.
No.
Because,
okay. So he's reminiscent of Octavian, Julius Caesar's adopted son, who Caesar named as successor when he was only 18, dating back to the Millennial Empire. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay. Romulus, Rome, but
yeah. Rome is fallen. That's what I kept waiting for. It's like
fall. Oh, oh, that scene was so sad.
I know. But I mean, hey, the other thing too, the final scene, which we can start wrapping stuff up. There was another.
I feel like I could talk to this for 6 months.
There was another scene that was improv that didn't make a cut in the final episode. Jeremy Strong was actually the one who was like, I think my character would just kill himself. I think my character would just kill himself.
I thought he was going to.
Everyone thought that. And if anything, too, I would have been okay with seeing Kendall try and fail at killing himself. And not even fail like across instead of up the arm kind of thing. That's way too specific. Sorry. But
I know what you meant. More like in a vegetative state because you shot yourself in the head and didn't die situation.
Yeah. No, not even that. I think the thing is he's not a strong-willed person. Right. He wants this. He's not a hard worker. He's not like, there's nothing about him that I feel like even if he was like, I'm going to kill myself, he would like chicken out. I mean, that's a weird way of saying it. Right. But I think you understand what I'm trying to get at.
I mean, all of this feels very insensitive when you're saying it, but it comes from a place of, yes. But like, yeah, no, I agree with you. When it comes down to anything, he cannot pull the trigger metaphorically and literally. Yeah. And, again, not to be insensitive, but it's just that is who he is. That is that's his whole genesis. Is he's all talk, execution, trash. And he tries. It's not for lack of effort. He just can't get there. Finish lines are not his shtick. Yeah, and I will say too, so the Waystar is based in One World Trade Center, which is here in New York. And funny enough, I think it was the director of the show said he even like went for a walk. He lives in Brooklyn, or it might have been the creator, but he went for a walk from there to try to like where would Kendall go? I guess going back to like the first season, there was an episode where Logan was like taking a walk through Central Park. He's like, all right, maybe we can go back there. But he was like, that doesn't make any sense because geologically, like it's too far. And it's a really far walk.
Yeah. And so
that's your half your day.
Yeah. And so anyway, he did the walk himself and figured it'd be more likely that Kendall would leave the building and then walk to Battery Park, which is where the final scene is.
Yeah.
Where there was a separate scene. They filmed it on like the coldest day of the year. It was a crazy scene, but there's a take that Jeremy Strong did where he went over towards the water and hopped the railing like he was going to jump in.
Oh, shit. Okay.
And instinctively, ad-libbing with him, the guy who plays the security guard or the bodyguard went over and stopped him and like, you know, to stop him from jumping. I don't think Jeremy Strong was going to do it, but like just that ambiguity of like, is he going to try to kill himself? Because you're even when it cuts to black, you're kind of like wondering like, oh, what's he going to do? Like, is he going to end it all or like, and that was the thing too, is like, I did read something too, where one of the creators or someone from the show said, actually it might've been Jeremy Strong himself. He's lost a lot before, right? We almost never see Kendall win. That said, there is something about this one. He lost his siblings. He lost his dad. He lost the company. He lost his kids. He lost his ex-wife. Like he lost everything.
There's got nothing.
He has. Exactly. Yeah. He has nothing to go back to. It is long gone and over for him. And so that's where it's like, this guy has nothing left. And Jeremy Strong was like, he would kill himself. Like that would be it. It'd be game over. We don't actually see that, but clearly that's what people had in their heads. And I did too. Everyone was convinced someone's going to die. Right. Because, I mean, it's very much comes off like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
You're
expecting
feel it. Someone.
You feel it.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere that the poster for season 4.
Yeah. Oh, the posters
is like full of Easter eggs. And like, I was like, okay, I saw the poster, paid no attention to it. And then I looked before we got on. I was like, okay, now that I've seen it, it's wrapped up. And I look at it. And I implore people who have seen the show, pull it up and look at it. Because the direction in which everybody is staring and what they are staring at tells you where they end up in the show. And it's fucking wild.
All right. Well,
and so well shot. Okay, pull it up.
You got to give, I'm looking at it, but I'll take me through it.
Well, I mean, if you look at Tom, he's looking at Kendall. He has to go through Kendall to get Logan's job, which he does.
Okay.
Roman only thinks he has to get through Kendall. He's not going through anybody.
Right.
But Shiv knows that Kendall's out because he's a fucking wreck in the beginning of season 4 before they kind of start this plan. Goes through Roman. She thinks maybe he has a shot. Nope. But it ends up obviously to get Kendall's job. And then look at our little poor baby Greg all the way in the background.
Hey.
He's just looking for anything.
Yeah.
Like anywhere to get to the foreground. How can I get there? And then poor Connor, he's just probably more concerned about his poor dad. He does not care about being in the foreground. But like, there's so many more Easter eggs that I saw about like the clothes they're wearing, what they're holding, how they're looking, their hands in the pockets, blah, blah, blah. But that was the one I saw explained on the tick and the talk. And I'm sure there's more that I'm missing, but also I think that if I were to rewatch a show, because we miss a lot and we miss a lot because so much happens in the foreground, you forget what's happening in the background. And when you said, I don't think I could watch it again, I was like, oh, I definitely could until I finished it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I really don't think I can. And I will. I know I will. But you know how we will talk about this with Barry, which we have coming up next. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about it with Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso. But I don't know if this is the end for the story. I saw somewhere that this may not be the final chapter. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. Is that wishful thinking? Like, where are you seeing it? Where are you seeing it?
So Jesse Armstrong said he kept the door open to creating a spinoff.
Oh,
and the main characters could be Cousin Greg. Mm-hmm. Could be a Cousin Greg show.
Oh, I say Tom and Greg and their adventures. The Disgusting Brothers go off on their adventures. Yeah.
And so I've seen that is. Yeah. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. And if it does happen, I don't think it would be as off-putting as if a Ted Lasso spinoff happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, God. We're going to get into that in that episode.
And we will. I know.
Well, I will say there's another, I mean, any show, there's all the cliche ways you can end a show. One of them is flash forwards, right? You can kind of see
New
what
Girl
happens to the
Status,
characters.
where you see like 10 years in the future with bad wigs and kids running around. Yeah.
Well, and we're going to get to this show too, but like I think Marvelous Mrs. Maisel has been doing that for their final season too.
Yeah,
like doing an episode and then flash forward at the end. I think there's also part of us that wanted to see like where do these characters end up in a couple of years, or what's the fallout from this? Did Gojo screw everything up, right? Did Madsen not know how to take care of the company, and did everything just falter and fall apart? Where does Shiv go, right? Because Shiv was adamant about, she was the most politically minded of everybody else, right? Until we find out that Roman is essentially one step away from being a one of the Proud Boys. Shiv is the one who is like basically wants to like turn Fox News into MSNBC, and that was part of the structure in the beginning of the season, which is also funny too because that entire thing just felt like it disappeared. Like we just stopped talking about it.
Like the whole ATN Fox News parallel and all that kind of stuff. I was like, what? Where does that end up?
When they're putting out offers and everything before to like the other network, and then the dad dies, and we almost like forgot about that. But anyway, regardless, I mean, there's part of me that wants to know what happened after. But I guess, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like out of all the different shows that have series finale'd, this is probably the one, and I'm gonna say this reluctantly. Aside from Barry, I will say this is the second least probable show that I would expect there to become some kind of spinoff.
Okay.
I think that's
now,
fair. Yeah.
I did not get to watch the Barry finale yet, which I'll probably do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard nothing but incredible things about it, and I'm so excited because I truly fucking love that show. I love it. Completely opposite of this. While the subject is dark, it is very digestible.
Yeah.
To kind of wrap up my thoughts on this and all of the loveliness that it is I feel like I've seen this show before in different iterations, right? Like I said, with Game of Thrones, or yes, as a Shakespeare nerd, you do find a lot of these complexes, especially the Oedipus complex and all this kind of stuff. You have it, but the acting in this show, the energy, the way it made me feel just as a viewer, if you can feel, and like you said, I think it's more to how it was shot, but if you can feel the way that I felt after every episode of a show, like it alters, go into it happy, fun, oh, today's gonna be a great day. And by the end of it, existential dread, this country's the shithole, everything is awful, that's a damn good piece of fucking television.
Yeah.
And how successful is this as far as HBO shows go? Is this Sopranos level?
Oh my God. Yeah. Out of the water. I think I saw it. I'm going to try to get it right because I can do this in real time. I want to say
that's what you were just looking up too.
Yeah. 2.9 million people tuned in for the finale.
Holy
and what's crazy about that is that
it's not even streaming numbers after.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That is live, which is, we've been so far away from that for such a long time. And think about people who don't have HBO and stuff anymore. But anyway, long story short, it did really well. And
well, I'd say.
Yeah. But I'm excited to talk to you about some other shows, which we'll do in the next couple episodes.
And we missed you guys. I can't believe it's been, 3 weeks since we recorded?
It's been a while. We've seen each other a little bit here and there, but we have. But we've been planning a lot. Season 2.
We're excited. Yes, and it definitely felt weird not recording. But now there's also the stress of like, holy shit, we have so many things to talk about because of all of these shows.
I know.
Not just ending their seasons, but ending their series. Yeah. Are you all caught up on Barry?
I am fully caught up. So I'm very excited to talk to you about that. That's going to be the next one.
All right. That'll probably be in the next 2 days.
Yeah.
But we're excited for season 2. We have some really fun stuff planned for you. And And I think we left you off with my non-Star Wars knowledge. So
we're going to catch up on Star Wars. We have a lot of stuff.
We're going to catch up.
We have a whole summer. We're not going away. And,
we're not going, but thanks again for all the support for season 1. It was a lot of fun. This was definitely not intended to make Tom hang out with me this much, but this is where we are, people.
We're here. We're here to stay. At least
we are.
So, cool. All right. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
I'm the eldest boy!